Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona Idrisi, author of the Muslim Narcissist book and empowerment coach for Muslims. In today's podcast, I'll be addressing the relationship between the narcissistic man-child and the empathic woman. This is a podcast that has been requested a lot, so I'm hoping inshallah this will give you the clarity and the closure and also the explanation that you need to be able to move on with your lives after experiencing such a relationship. So I haven't forgotten the men. Inshallah, the next podcast will be about the narcissistic woman-child and the empathic man. But today I need to focus on the man-child and the empathic woman because there is a lot to cover. So do bear with me. This is probably going to be a long podcast, but you're going to want to hear this to the end. And even if you are a man-child, do try and listen to this to the end because it will really highlight all the areas that you need to work on to become better, inshallah. So as always, I'd like to kindly ask you to like the podcast if you found it beneficial. Do share it with others whom you feel could benefit from this content. And do subscribe to the channel if you would like to be notified about future podcast releases about similar subjects. So without further ado, let's jump in. And you might want to buckle up for this one too, because some people might get triggered, you might get flashbacks, you might feel upset. So always bear in mind that whenever you listen to videos about narcissism, you're going to have a memory jog. So I do recommend that if you're feeling overwhelmed with information overload and you're feeling a bit upset listening to the podcast, then do take breaks. Don't finish the whole thing all in one go. Allow yourself to process the information in chunks if you need to. Okay, so it's really important for me to tell you this, as I know sometimes it can be an overload of emotions that you might experience when you listen to the podcast, especially when you can relate to everything. So let's start off by defining who a man-child is. Okay, so a man-child is, to put it simply, a child in a man's body. Okay, so their personality reflects that of a child, but physically, they are men. And some will be more alpha than others as well. Some will be quite feminine and others will appear more masculine. And I'll explain why later. But for now, it's very important to understand that there are two different types of man-child. So the first type of man-child is the one who doesn't have NPD. So they're not narcissistic, they're just very immature. And they are between the ages of 18 and 22. So with these young men, you'll often find that they have innocent charm to them and it's genuine, and they're also very nice. However, their very low immaturity levels come as a result of them not having any masculine role models in their lives. So they may have fathers who abandon them, or they have fathers who are man-children as well. And if they have fathers who are man-children, then what will happen is that they will see that their mother is the one who has the upper hand in the marriage. She is the controlling one. She is the one who dictates how everything is going to be, and she is the decision maker. So he sees his father as being a very emasculated man, and the mother is the one who is running the show, and she's in her full masculine energy. So he's used to this type of dynamic. So whether he has a father who abandoned him when he was young, or the father was a man-child, they are both considered to be fathers who inflict father wounds on these types of boys. And sometimes you will find that a man had a father who wasn't very present. So he had one foot in and one foot out. He would come and go whenever he pleased. So again, this is the example that a man-child has had of what a man should be like. So the mother, in this case, would usually be a narcissistic mother, or she would have been a codependent mother who became toxic over time. Okay, so a lot of man-children have mothers who started off okay. They started off empathic, but dealing with a man-child made them toxic. And I'll tell you why this happens later on in the podcast. But what I want you to understand is that when a man-child has a narcissistic mother or a toxic codependent mother, what's going to happen is that he's going to see and understand that it's normal for women to be so controlling and be so masculine in their relationships with men. So this is now becoming his comfort zone. Okay, he is now becoming programmed from childhood to understand that this is normal. It's normal for women to run the show and be so bossy and be so controlling and rude and sometimes very feminist. And also, many men have witnessed their mothers be the financial providers in a marriage. So when they see that their mother is taking care of their father financially, who's lazy, who's not working, he's not making the effort to find a job, he's always in and out of jobs, for whatever reason, they now become accustomed to this relationship dynamic where it's okay for a woman to be the provider in the family. Because they're actually seeing their fathers get away with it, right? They're seeing their fathers get away with being lazy and not being man enough to step up and take care of the family. And so this is what they learn about masculinity. This is what they learn about being a man. So the bottom line is that these boys were not raised to be men. So they don't know how to be men. No one ever mentored them. No one ever taught them how a masculine man should act, how he should think, and how he should look after others under his care. And so his safety net became his mother. And his mother is the one who is taking care of everybody. Okay? When the mother is the one who is taking care of everybody, it's now programmed in the minds of these boys that this is how women should be. Okay, this is what they look for later in life. A woman who takes care of everything from A to Z. Finances, decisions, everything to do with holidays, everything to do with dates. It's the woman who plans everything because they've seen their mothers do this regularly. Now, on the flip side, what makes this relationship even more toxic is when the mother feels overwhelmed. She's extremely stressed out from having to deal with a man-child husband who isn't doing anything, and she has to constantly parent him. She's taking it out on the kids. She now becomes emotionally unavailable. She is always disciplinary. She is always screaming, shouting. She doesn't want the kids in her face. She tells them to just go and play with their friends outside for hours and hours and hours. And this is neglect, right? This is a form of neglect and a childhood trauma. Because it's at these times when children start to believe that no one cares about them. They've been out for hours and no one's asking about them or looking for them because the mother needs space to chill. She needs some space to herself because she's running out of patience and snapping at everyone. So when this happens, the man-child now feels that he's been deprived of the loving, nurturing and caring mother. He doesn't have that motherly love, that maternal love. It's gone because of everything she's having to deal with. Now, if she's narcissistic, this will be horrific. Okay, this type of abuse that he will endure from his mother and her nastiness will be on another level because she's already got NPD. But when a mother is codependent or toxic codependent, he will feel that he's neglected. He won't feel loved. She doesn't have time to cuddle and show affection to her children. She doesn't have time to sit with them and play with them and talk to them. There's no time for all of that because she's so stressed and she's so depressed. Many of these mothers suffer from severe depression, and these boys have nowhere to go to find a masculine role model and a maternal mother figure. Okay, so they're missing both in their life. And this becomes their ultimate crisis. And every man-child will be able to identify the pivotal moment where he felt despair. Okay, there would have been a childhood trauma or even a trauma later on in his teenage years where he would have been emotionally stunted from that age. So some man-children, they act like 7-year-olds. And some act like 10-year-olds, and some act like 13-year-olds, some 15, some 17, because a trauma that happened in their lives emotionally stunted them from that moment because they weren't able to process what happened or process their emotions. Again, this could be neglect. It could be physical abuse that was particularly bad. It could be being abandoned by a father at a young age. So whenever something particularly traumatic like that happened in their younger years and they weren't able to process it or understand it, that's where they will be mentally stuck and psychologically stuck for the rest of their adult years. Okay? Because it's something to do with their personal life. Now, a man-child can do very well in his career, he can do very well in other areas of life, but in his personal life, in his family life, he'll be stunted at that age. That's how he will deal with you. He will deal with you from the point of that childhood trauma that he's not healed from and he's not moved on from. And that's why many people get really frustrated dealing with these guys, because it's like talking to a child. It's like dealing with someone who is on the maturity level of a 7-year-old. They can't resolve issues, you can't have any mature communication with them, and it constantly feels like you're parenting them. Okay? So that's where it all stems from. Now, a man-child can heal from his childhood traumas, absolutely. He would definitely need therapy and counselling for that. But when they don't go for therapy and counselling, it allows their qareen to play on their minds, constantly feed them memories about their childhood traumas, and this is what gives them PTSD, ADHD, and OCD. So you'll notice with the man-child, most of them, if not all of them, have all three. Okay, they suffer from all three, especially ADHD and long-term PTSD. And this, of course, comes with depression. Okay, so every man-child I have ever spoken to in my life has suffered from depression. Now, if a man-child was raised in a single mother household or a single father household, and they happen to have a parent who is more empathic, so they're not a narcissist and not toxic codependent, what will happen with this empathic parent is they will feel guilty. Okay, they will feel guilty for a divorce, or they may feel bad because the mother of this boy or the father of this boy passed away. So they're a widower and they just feel really sorry for this boy who grew up without a loving mother or a caring father. So what the empath does here, and unfortunately this is something that happens when your emotions take over, you start to spoil the boy. Okay, you start to overly compensate, you start to baby him, and you feel the constant need to be doing things for him. So you clean up his room, even in his teenage years. You're the one cleaning his room and washing his dishes. You're not giving him anything to do. I mean, I know a father who takes up cups of tea and dinners to his 19-year-old boy's room because he feels so bad for him that he was raised without a mother because she died when he was young from cancer. Now his father's in his 70s, okay, driving him around everywhere, buying him everything he wants. Every time he wants money, he'll give it to him. And he's not teaching his son how to be independent, how to get into work from a young age, and how to be masculine, and how to do all of these things and be self-sufficient. He's doing everything for him. And unfortunately, I'm seeing him become a very feminine man-child who can't do anything himself. I know other women as well who have brothers who are 23 and 24 and they still ask them for £10 and £20 because they can't be bothered to work. They've been so pampered all their lives that the women in the family or the single father or the single mother pampers this child, this one boy, and he's not given the space to grow. He's not given the space to learn. He's now very comfortable in this comfort zone because he's having everything done and provided for him without him having to work or do anything. Okay, he's used to that environment now where he's either heavily pampered or he was raised in a home with a man-child father and a very masculine mother who is narcissistic or codependent. Now, another way a man-child can become a man-child is if the narcissistic mother puts him on a pedestal and he is her golden child. So if he's particularly handsome, beautiful child, she will put him on a pedestal and she won't allow him to do anything. And this will be much to the annoyance of his siblings, especially his sisters, because this mother just treats him like a princess. And she might get everyone to serve him. She might get everyone to look up to him and not upset him and not do anything wrong to him because he's her precious little boy. Okay, he's the mummy's boy. And the mummy's boy is pampered, right? The mummy's boy is always on a pedestal. He doesn't do anything. The money is brought in for him. The mother's always giving him money. She's always giving him what he wants, buying him everything he wants. And sometimes this is at the displeasure of her husband. So if she has a masculine husband, he will always be annoyed at the fact that she overly spoils this particular boy. They will always have marital problems over this boy because he is far too pampered. And sometimes the husband gets jealous of him as well. So when he sees that all the attention of his wife is being poured into this boy because he's beautiful and because he's whatever she likes in him, the husband will get jealous, and sometimes a divorce can happen as a result of it. And then what happens here is that if this relationship continues between a mother and her son, then it turns into a very unhealthy, toxic relationship later on in life. So he almost turns into her husband because the husband is now not present. The husband is now left. He's now divorced the wife, or he's now just faded away. He's not really present in the marriage, and the mother's energy has been poured into this boy. And you will often find that this man-child, this mummy's boy, will grow up to almost be her husband as well. It's a very strange, complex relationship where she continues to do everything for him, and she expects him to always be there at the click of her finger, even if he's married. And if he does get married, this particular narcissistic woman becomes very jealous. She absolutely hates her daughter-in-law. And sometimes she has to agree to a marriage because if he does not get married, society will talk about him. And this narcissistic mother cares so much about her reputation, but it's actually against her will to get her precious son married. She wants him all to herself. She does it for society, for everyone to show that he's normal, he's not gay, there's nothing wrong with him, he can get married and women want him. But when he does get married, the daughter-in-law suffers greatly because this mother has a very unhealthy attachment to this son, because in her mind, this beautiful, handsome man has been programmed to serve me. He's been programmed to be only mine. Right? She's managed to mold him into who she wants him to be. However, he has lost a huge chunk of his masculinity in the process, and this man-child ends up resenting his mother because he cannot be masculine. He doesn't know how to be a man. So even though he may continue until his adult years, until his 40s and 50s, to be pampered by this mother who continues to wash his socks, even in her 60s, and she continues to make his favourite meals, and she continues to brush his hair, and she continues to sleep next to him. Yes, there are women who do this. Despite all of this, despite being put on a pedestal, this man-child internally resents his mother because she has smothered him so badly that he doesn't know how to be a man. He knows there's something wrong with him. When he compares himself to other men, he feels very inadequate. And that's why many of them lash out in their marriages. The marriage that you have with a mummy's boy can be very toxic because of his internal inferiority complex when he compares himself to other men who are masculine and they're alpha. But at the same time, he can't let go of his ties with his mother because she is his whole world, right? He's been raised to believe that his mother is his whole world. He can't live without his mother. It's his childhood programming. He can't come out of that. I mean, he can if he gets the therapy for it. But for the most part, these men, they are attached by an invisible umbilical cord to their mother until the end of their days. Okay? And that's why the mother has so much control. If you marry a mummy's boy, she has an incredible amount of control over him. Literally, she will click her fingers and he will come running at 3 a.m, 4 a.m. He will drop the entire planet for his mother because his self-value comes from her putting him on a pedestal. And that's why he runs to mummy for everything, every problem, every complaint. It's his mother who is the first point of call. And if she sees that you, as the new wife, are becoming the first point of call and the priority, oh, hell will break loose. She might even demand that he divorce you. And in some extreme cases, she might even do black magic on you to separate you from him. Even if he gets a divorce, she doesn't care at this point. She just wants her baby back. There are loads of mothers like this. You've got to be really careful who dabble in black magic to get their son back. Okay, so if you find that a man has a very unhealthy attachment to his mother, he's almost like her husband, and it gives you the ick because the way she talks to him, the way he talks to her, sometimes it can be very lovey-dovey, it can be overly sweet, overly loving. If that gives you the ick, then trust me, there's something not right in this dynamic between them, okay? And he would have been a man-child, put on a pedestal. He will never, ever be the man you need him to be because his mother will always have control over him. You can't even move country because she won't allow it. Every decision has to go through her. Even decisions that are about you personally, for example, where you're going to give birth, what you're going to name your child, what birth control you need to be on, that has to go through her first. You think he doesn't tell her all of these things? He tells her everything, and she gives her stamp of approval or disapproval, and then that comes back into your marriage, and then you have marital problems. So it's a real crisis a lot of women are facing when they get married to this type of man-child. Okay, so he's not nasty, he's not abusive, he doesn't have NPD. He just has a very strange relationship with this mother, and she's given him a very inflated ego, so he does have a sense of grandiosity and entitlement and feeling special and important. Yes, that is narcissism, but it's not the abusive type. He's not the type that will go out of his way to abuse you. Some men do, if they develop NPD later on in life, and I'll come on to that in a moment. So I just want you to understand that there are different types of man-children, and this is how they are raised, okay? Now, unfortunately, if a man-child has a mother like this, and she is his entire world, if this mother passes away, his entire world comes crashing down. Some of them will commit suicide as well as a result of losing their mother. It can be really dangerous if they don't sort this out quickly. So these very strong, unhealthy attachments to people can cause the ultimate destruction of somebody when they lose that person. Okay, and I've seen it a few times where the man-child, the mummy's boy, has lost his mother to death and he's not been able to cope. He's just gone completely downhill. They hit rock bottom, and many of them do become suicidal. Now, if you didn't know this, I'll tell you this. The majority of people who commit suicide are man-children, okay, as a result of not finding what they need in life and also losing what they needed in life, okay, losing their attachments that they had basically perceived as life support machines. Okay, so these attachments are so unhealthy that when you lose them, unfortunately, you lose yourself as well, and you don't see the point of living. So man-children are unfortunately at a high risk of suicidal thoughts and self-harm if they don't get the help they need, and this is where the empath woman comes in. Okay, again, I've just got to backtrack a little bit because it's really important you get the background context to this before I go on to this relationship, because you need to understand it completely, inside out, for you to know how you wound up in that situation with a man-child, or how you yourself, if you're a man, how you turned into a toxic man-child who became narcissistic later. Okay, so remember I told you earlier that there are two types of man-child. You have the first one, who is the immature one between the ages of 18 and 22. And then you have the second type of man-child, who is the narcissistic man-child, the one who starts developing NPD from a very young age. Okay, so the first type, like I said, they will just be annoying, irritating, spoiled brats, immature, and will continue this way as long as they're being spoiled. So as long as mummy is spoon feeding him at the dinner table, and yes, some women have told me that they've seen their mother-in-laws do this with their husbands in their 40s and 50s. So as long as they keep getting treated like this, the age bracket of 18 to 22 can extend. And this is something that the man-child will not hide. And he will become more overt in his narcissism and his grandiosity, and he will like to show women how he's put on a pedestal by his mother. Oh, mother dearest, she doesn't allow me to do this, and she cooks for me, and she does this for me, and she gives me money, and all of that. He likes to brag about his mother, so he's not really the covert narcissist. Okay, he's more of an overt narcissist, this guy, and he's not that dangerous because he just wants to be pampered and spoiled by everybody. So the way his mother spoils him, he wants you to do that for him as well. So you will know this off the bat. You will know from very early on that this man is a mummy's boy. He doesn't hide it. And if he becomes malicious later, nasty, malignant, it will be as a result of what his mother keeps telling him to do. So his mother will be the shaitana, who keeps feeding him very bad advice. She keeps telling him, things to do that ruin the marriage, that ruin your relationship with him. So if he turns nasty later in life, it's usually because of his mother. Okay, she's very jealous, she's very envious, and she will start to tell him things, many of them being lies. Okay, these mother-in-laws, they lie a lot to create friction and tension in the marriage. And sometimes they may even plant the seed in his head, to get a second wife. Oh, I think you deserve someone better. You should be with someone more beautiful. Why don't you take this second wife? Why don't you do this? Why don't you divorce her and I'll fix you up with someone much better? Oh, they feed all of this into their minds, and that's why they flex their muscles, right? In the marriage, they become very arrogant and they tell you, oh, if you want to go, you can go, and mummy dearest is going to find me another wife and this and that. So they don't feel a need to work on the marriage because mummy dearest always has his back. Mummy dearest is always there to save the day, and she's there to save his future. Okay, so that's why they become very careless in the marriage. They don't know how to be husbands, and they do not know how to be fathers. And they just become very careless about the relationship because mummy is there to help him. Mummy is there to save him if anything goes wrong. He knows she's always going to be there to save him, so he has no worries about any consequences. He doesn't worry about divorce, he doesn't worry about anything. So if he turns nasty, it's because of her. Now, as for man-child number 2, he finds ways in his teenage years to cope with not being masculine and not having a good father, not having a masculine role model, not having a loving, nurturing, caring mother, and not having a loving home, and witnessing a toxic marriage. And it's from here a lot of man children don't ever want to get married because they're always fearful that they will have another toxic relationship like their parents did. So they're usually terrified of marriage and commitment. Okay, you'll notice that. So because they've gone through all of these experiences, and sometimes, like I said, childhood traumas or teenage traumas, they find unhealthy ways to cope. And this is actually mentioned in detail in my previous podcast about raising teenagers. So you'll find that many will turn to horror movies, or they will join gangs, or they will watch so much pornography, or they'll become addicted to video games, or they'll start smoking weed, or they'll go clubbing. Whatever it is, they will start forming bad habits. And sometimes it's starting to get involved with girls and sexual relationships with girls. Okay, so it could be a number of things. Whatever it is that they choose to do is what they believe will make them feel better. It will make them feel more of a man. Now, the majority of man children, they do choose the route of girlfriends and weed. These are the two common ones. You do get others who get involved with criminal activities and, hanging around with the wrong crowd at night and doing silly things, the immature things that teenagers do, such as knock on people's doors and run off, or set fire to fireworks in the middle of the park where it's illegal. They like doing illegal things. He just wants to feel like a somebody. And so many mothers especially, complain that their teenage boys are unbearable to be around, unbearable, because they're always getting into trouble. Their teachers are constantly calling them. They don't attend college. They're rebellious. They're just a complete nightmare, because this is the stage where they're starting to experiment with what's going to make me feel good. Where am I going to find my purpose? Where am I going to find love? So essentially they're looking for love. And that's why I said the majority of them will start to form relationships with girls, and they hope to find love in one of them. So up until this point, their intentions towards girls and young women are good. Okay, they're not malignant. They aren't malicious, because they really are looking for love. They're looking for kindness. They're looking for warmth. They're looking for comfort. They're looking for maternal energy. They're looking for all of those things. And they search for it in other girls. Now, when that happens, because of their childhood programming, they will always gravitate towards women who are like their mothers. And sometimes it can be really creepy to see, because the first woman he gets involved with seriously, and this is usually around the age of 22, 23, 24, she's just like his mother, and she looks like her too. Like, she actually scarily looks like her. And this man-child, when he gets into his first relationship with a young woman he falls in love with, he goes all in. All in. If this young woman was to tell him to bring her the moon and the sun, he would do it. There is nothing this woman could ever ask for that he would do for her, because she is giving him what he needs, right? The love, the affection, it could be intimacy, it could be whatever. Cuddles, it could be words of affirmation. He could feel really good around this woman. She might be beautiful. She might be very sweet and kind to him. And all these things that make him so attached to her. Okay, so she becomes his life support machine. He can't live without her. He's willing to do everything. He works on the relationship. He fights for it. He does everything in his power. Now, this woman, the first woman he ever comes across in his life, will either be codependent or narcissistic. So if she's codependent, she will also be looking for the same thing. She will also come from a similar background, and they will find love in each other and that comfort and that, intimacy and everything that they wanted, they find it within each other. So for a period of time, they get along so well, and she becomes the love of his life and he becomes the love of her life. They become codependent with each other. If she's narcissistic, she will manipulate him and she will pretend to love him. And what would have drawn her to him is the fact that he's so naive. He's quite innocent. He's quiet. He's very easily controlled, because he's been controlled by his mother all his life. So she finds easy prey. She's been taught by her narcissistic mother how to prey on young men. So she finds him as an easy target. She picks on him. She manipulates him and pretends to be able to give him everything that he wants. He becomes highly addicted to her, highly intoxicated, highly attached to her. And what will happen here is that he will enter a trauma bond with this woman. And eventually, she will cheat on him. Eventually, she will do something to smash the masculinity he's trying to build up for himself. Okay, so you might find him to be a guy who follows people like Andrew Tate. He's trying his best to, get out of man-child mode and do his best to keep this trophy he's got, this woman he's got, who he loves so much. He doesn't know she's narcissistic. He doesn't know she's manipulating him and faking love with him. He doesn't know any of that. So you'll always find them at this age. That's why people like Andrew Tate and, men who constantly talk about masculinity and they're quite influential, the majority of people who follow them are young men in this age bracket, because they've now entered the first relationship and they're in love with this woman, and they need to know how to keep this woman by being more masculine. So this is a point in time where they're trying their best to be providers. They might go and get a job. They might go and buy her everything she wants. They might even take 2 jobs. And they're protective, and they do everything that they feel like they have to do, and they're feeling good about themselves, right? They're feeling good that, oh, okay, I'm teaching myself how to be a man. because I need to keep this woman. She's telling me she likes this and that. She's looking at men like Andrew Tate. She's impressed by him. I need to learn how to be like him. So this is a huge motivator for the man-child when he's young, to be able to keep a woman. He puts a lot of effort into learning how to be a man. And what will happen is that he will make progress. Okay, he makes progress with this. Again, look at all the men who follow these types of influencers, and even if they're red pill guys, the young men look up to them because they so desperately want to learn how to be a man. So they're making progress, they're doing well, and then one day their whole world comes crashing down when they find out she's cheated, right? And sometimes it's with his friend. Sometimes it's so traumatic who she's cheated on him with that it causes him to self-destruct. A lot of guys at this age become very suicidal because they feel like all the masculinity that they've managed to build up has gone out the window. They feel worthless. They feel unwanted, unloved. They feel unattractive because the woman who was the love of his life cheated on him with a man who is alpha masculine. Okay, you'll always find that the woman cheats on him with a man who is not like him, the complete opposite. This is what narcs do. Remember, this is what I told you. Narcs will always cheat on you with someone who is the polar opposite. And so this man who she's gone off with now basically triggers every insecurity he has, because this man is taking her out to dinner when he couldn't afford it. This man has money to splash on her. This man is protective. He's muscly. He's tall. Yeah, he's got a beard. He's everything he's not. And this is the pivotal moment when a man-child turns narcissistic. Okay, now he develops a hate for women. Okay, there's an internal hate that's now bubbling inside him for women. Women can't be trusted. Women are disgusting. No matter what I do, it's not good enough. Never again will I invest in a woman. Never again will I do all of those things for a woman. I'm not doing any of that anymore. I'm going to be exactly who I am, because when I work, I don't get anything from that. When I work hard, when I make effort, when I try to start a business and do well so I could provide for her, when I went to the gym and, tried to build up muscle and look good, none of that. She saw none of it. I got cheated on. Never again. Never again am I going to do that. Now, he may not stop everything, so they might hold on to the gym like a lot of man children do. They might hold on to one thing that they gain some comfort from for their self-esteem. So it's usually going to the gym. You find a lot of them in the gym. But in general, in that moment of time, the anger and the hatred and the jealousy they feel towards that man and the hatred they feel towards themselves turns them narcissistic. And that's when they start to develop NPD very quickly. But they become covert narcissists. And they become people who actually hate alpha masculine men. They always have an insecurity around them. They don't like them. They don't like being around them. They feel inferior around them. Because the alpha masculine male always reminds him of that trauma of when the love of his life cheated on him with a man like him. Okay, that trauma is always triggered. And again, that comes from the qareen. It's a reason why so many man children smoke weed. Because it's an escape, right? It's an escape from this world. It's the escape from reality. If they can go into another bubble where they can, get high and leave this world for a while, they would do that. And that's why so much of their money gets wasted on weed and why they never progress in life, because all they want to do is smoke weed in the car or hang out with other friends who smoke weed. So the money that they earn from their jobs is all wasted on things like this, right? It's all wasted on magic mushrooms and weed and other types of drugs as well, if they're into all of that. So that's why they never progress in life financially, because they spend it on what they feel gives them an escape. So this chronic heartbreak that they experience so early on in life, in their adulthood, is what makes them narcissistic. And now they start thinking of ways where they can get what they want and get their needs met by manipulation and gaslighting. That's why the man-child is the master manipulator and gaslighter. Okay, even if he wasn't in a physical relationship with a woman, it could be a relationship online. It doesn't necessarily have to involve, fornication and a physical relationship and all of that. Sometimes it's just a man getting involved with a woman online romantically, and he forms an attachment to her, and then one day he finds out, she's getting married to someone else, or her family say to him, I'm sorry, but you can't marry our daughter, you're too poor, or you're not educated enough, or you're not from our caste, or you're not from our tribe, or you don't earn enough, or, whatever. This trauma can set them back with their progress, and it can really cause them to develop a deep bitterness towards women and, just to relationships in general. They're like, why do I bother? I've spent so many months or so many years investing in this woman. I've sent her money. I've done everything she wanted me to do, but it was never good enough. So they go through life believing they are never good enough. And they will never be good enough for a woman, because the one woman they wanted, they couldn't have. The one woman they wanted in the world, because remember, like I said, when they go in, they go all in. They wouldn't have cheated. They wouldn't have seen any other woman. When the man-child loves, he loves. And so it would have scarred him so badly that no other woman matters now. No other woman matters. From now on, every woman I meet, she's going to get used and manipulated and deceived, because I don't trust women, and I will never commit myself to marriage. I will never commit myself to a long-term relationship. And if I do, I'll always have women on the side, just in case she decides to cheat on me. I have other sources of supply. That's where the ideology comes from. Again, it's fueled by the qareen. Okay, please go back to my previous podcast to listen to what happens to these guys during adolescent years. Sometimes they go through such spiritual problems after such a traumatic experience. They start to have bad nightmares. They start to feel ashiq jinn possession, okay, because they really dive deep into pornography as an escape, and horror movies and all these kinds of things. And again, drugs and use of weed can attract the ashiq jinn, because you are constantly, entering another realm of this world where you are tapping into dangerous levels of energy that belong to evil jinn. Okay, that's why it's haram to smoke drugs and drink alcohol, because when you're so intoxicated, you actually enter the realm of the evil jinn. Okay, that's why people act like crazy when they're drunk, right? That's why people do crazy things when they're high. It's because the jinn have now overtaken them when they're drunk. They now say things that they have never said before. They might speak in another voice. They will act like primitive animals. And that's why a lot of crimes happen when people are drunk or intoxicated, because they don't know what they're doing. And sometimes they can get violent. Sometimes they can get abusive. Sometimes they can start smashing things and, destroying property, destroying gardens. They start peeing in public. They start doing things that are completely out of character when they're intoxicated, because the evil jinn have taken over them, because you have chosen to enter their world via a portal that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited for you. He's prohibited it for this reason. Okay? So when people engage in a lot of smoking, a lot of drinking, you invite the ashiq jinn into you, and that's when you start to become closet gay. Okay? A lot of man children become closet gay from this point, because now you're turning to these intoxicants to make you feel better as an escape. And you're watching pornography, and all of a sudden you're starting to realize that I'm starting to be attracted to men, right? I've got feelings for men now because of my hatred for women. My ashiq jinn is working on me, my qareen is working on me, and they're coming from different angles. Your qareen is telling you women are disgusting, women are all cheaters, women are all liars, they can't be trusted. And your ashiq jinn is telling you, look how attractive that man is. Isn't it better to be with a man you can trust? Aren't men better to be with? Aren't men attractive? Aren't men this? Aren't men better? And then the two work together to form a delusional image in the mind of a man about other men. Okay, so now what they didn't see attractive before in men, they now see as attractive. They're now attracted to the alpha masculine man. They're now attracted to the feminine men, so they're different. Some man children will be attracted to the masculine, and some will be attracted to the pretty boy feminine guys. Okay, but more often than not, you will find that the man child who is struggling to be a man will be attracted to a very alpha masculine man. Okay, he will end up becoming attracted to the same type of man the first woman he loved cheated on him with. Okay, because he sees him as a safety net now as well. It's completely mind-boggling to explain this to you, but I'm trying to do it in the simplest way I can, because I want you to understand where the closet gayness comes from in man children. It comes from here. And that's why you see, when you see gay couples together, there's always one who's very feminine and one who's very masculine. It's very rare to find two very feminine ones together or two masculine guys together, unless it's like a casual fling or a hookup, I don't know. But when it comes to long-term relationships, you'll always find one more feminine than the other. So if the man-child feels very feminine, he'll be drawn to the masculine. And that's why they usually tend to find men they get involved with at the gym. Okay, the gym is the prime place for people to, catch feelings for other men. And that's why even in Islam, you've got to cover properly as a man when you go to the gym. Don't be flexing your muscles. Don't be going there half naked. Wallah, there are men who are struggling with their sexuality and you're not making it easy for them there. You're not making it easy. Before you know it, some guy is going to fall in love with you, and then you're going to end up catching feelings because the ashiq jinn is going to work on you as well. How many straight men turn gay because a pretty boy, man-child fell in love with them? This is how it happens. This is how it works. And so when you have a man-child who is obsessively at the gym, believe me, 80% of the reasons for him being in the gym all that time is because he's really enjoying being around masculine energy and all that testosterone. Okay, he's feeling now attracted to other men. That's why he spends so much time there. That's why he spends so much time with his friends, an unhealthy amount of time with his friends. Okay, because the ashiq jinn is working on him. And this is where he's getting all of his gay tendencies. So he may not be completely closet gay, he might be bisexual. A lot of them are bisexual. So they'll swing both ways. And they will engage in relationships with the opposite sex without anyone knowing. No one will know about this. And they will be ashamed to let people know about it. So they will try to hide it as much as possible. It's something that most women will never find out until much later on in the marriage or after the marriage or the relationship has ended. Okay, you find out after that he was closet gay or closet bisexual, and it's because of all the traumas and the ways that he's been dealing with his traumas that has attracted evil jinn to him, that have made him look at men in a different way. And also, when they experience a heartbreak, they turn to other men for comfort. And when they turn to other men for comfort, especially emotional comfort, a lot of them do end up falling in love with their friends. And this is where they get the idea that being with a man is safer. Okay, it's better to be with a man who I can trust than a woman who is going to screw me over again in that kind of way, because I never want to feel that again. Never in my life do I want to feel that again. So as he goes through life, he starts to become more manipulative. He starts to learn how to use and abuse women. But again, he doesn't do it in a malicious way. He doesn't do it in a malignant way like other narcissists do. He still maintains a nice character. Okay, he still is a nice guy. He still does nice things for people. He does come across as being an empathic person. Okay, because his internal issues are so deep down that it takes time for them to resurface. Okay, when they're with you. When you meet them for the first time, you won't notice it. It takes a while before you realize that this person is toxic. Okay, so if we're looking at these people in a non-Muslim context, what will happen is the majority of men you'll find on apps like Tinder, will be man children, and they'll be very good looking. And the majority of non-Muslim women complain that none of them want to get married. None of them want long-term relationships. They're all commitment phobes. This is the reason why. Okay, they've been hurt so badly by a woman before, on top of all their childhood traumas, on top of all their adolescent traumas, on top of all their spiritual problems, on top of their addictions, on top of not having a loving mother, and on top of not having a masculine role model as a father, a caring, loving father. They've got so many issues they're carrying around with them. And sometimes this also includes not having an education, because they would have dropped out of school or college because they didn't do well. They hung around, like I said, with the wrong crowd. They got involved in problems and drugs and, crimes where police were involved and all of that they didn't even finish their education. And so you'll find that the majority of man children have very mediocre jobs, nothing special. If he has money, it will be from his family. And sometimes he'll just go and get a diploma from a college to be a plumber or electrician. He'll have skilled work, or he'll just have a very regular job somewhere. He doesn't have ambition. He's lost his drive for life. This is a man who has no drive for life, no ambitions, nothing. He's just happy and content with his life, even if it's a very poor life. That's all he wants to do, because he doesn't have the drive. Again, that masculine energy is missing. That gives a man the drive to do well and be a provider and, and be successful financially. A man child, even if he's successful financially, he's still not happy within himself. He still doesn't feel like a man. And it will be by family recommendation or friend recommendation that he gets a job. It's not because he's a highly ambitious person. It's because of the fact that he's had a lot of help to get to where he is. Now, the young men who listen to people like Andrew Tate and other men who really push the youth to get rich quickly and make a lot of money, if they get into the heads of these guys, then these guys could be motivated to, work harder and get money, because it's the only thing that's going to make them feel better, right? So selling them the idea of them being rich so that they can be happy is what drives a lot of man children to be obsessed about money. Okay, and when they become obsessed about money, they will look for it everywhere. And sometimes it's in other women. Okay, that's why a lot of man children gravitate towards wealthy women. Like the cougar woman. Let's talk about her for a moment. So the cougar woman is the boss babe, right? The woman who is older. She could be in her 40s, 50s and 60s. And she meets a young handsome man in his 20s. And he's willing to be with her in return for financial gain. So she's happy providing for him and buying him luxurious gifts like designer clothing. She could buy him a car. She could pay for his rent, right? She could pay his bills, as long as she gets her sexual needs fulfilled and she gets a man who is good looking, someone she can show off. He's not the type to have children with her, but usually at that age, women aren't looking to have children. They want the company. So she will spoil him. She'll be very wealthy and she'll spoil him like a child, because he is a child. This type of guy is willing to put his dignity aside and be a sex slave to this woman who's much older than him, but there's so much for him to gain. And this is a way for him to get money. He doesn't care if his dignity is down the toilet. He doesn't care if he's not helping himself to build up his masculinity. He's getting money, because now he's believing that money is going to bring him happiness, right? If I have lots of money and I become wealthy and I become, a somebody, I'm going to be finally happy in my life. I don't want a woman. I don't want love. I don't want any of that rubbish. I just want money. And that's why so many man children become obsessed about money. Now, in a Muslim context, you can still find this relationship dynamic, but you will often see it in a misyar situation. So it's not publicized. Okay, it's not a marriage that's publicized. It will be a misyad marriage where he just goes to visit her in her home, but he receives all these benefits and then he lies to everybody, telling everyone that, oh, my business is doing well, I got a promotion, or I'm getting bonuses in my job, and that's how I've managed to afford this Mercedes. I've managed to live in this area. I've managed to do this and do that and go on all these fancy holidays. So he's ashamed, but he has to lie to people about where he's getting all this money. But there's a woman in the background funding it who he's married to. He's got a dodgy nikah done with, and she is benefiting from him sexually. Now, one thing that these men learn is that in order to get women like this to take care of them, right, they're lazy. They don't have to do anything. I don't have to lift a finger. I'm going to be exactly like my dad. And I'm going to find a woman who's going to take care of everything from A to Z. I won't have to pay for anything. I won't have to do anything except for invest in how I look. Okay, because he will know he's handsome. So he will invest a lot into that. And that's why many of them continue going to the gym. Because they know that a lot of women are blinded by good looks. Now, bear in mind, the man-child is very reckless. Okay, so in a non-Muslim context, he will be someone who has children with various women. Okay, because he doesn't think before he gets into a sexual relationship with someone who is super toxic, right? Psychopathic. They just sleep with anyone. And because they're always intoxicated, they make careless and very reckless decisions. And so this is where the stereotype of all these, man children who have loads of baby mamas comes in. It's from that. They are reckless. They don't know how to maturely take a decision about something important like that. They just do whatever they desire. Okay, they do whatever they desire. And this is why so many of them are broke. Okay, again, you find even on non-Muslim channels when they speak about the man-child, they're always talking about women who accept very broke men into their lives, but they're so good looking. Right? So these women are accepting them on the basis that they're good looking. So man-children learn from this. And that's why many women will compromise on their low financial status in return for having a man who is very good looking. So, how do these men catch empathic women? Okay, now I'm not talking about the high-level empaths. High-level empaths won't go there. I'm talking about women who are codependent, but they have high empathic traits. Okay, or they're considered to be empaths, but they're suffering from a lot of loneliness. Okay, so many empathic women are lonely. And this is how these types of man-children are able to enter their lives. Now, there are various ways in which empaths meet man-children, and it's more often than not online, because empathic women are quite shy. You don't really find them out in public. They wouldn't approach men. They don't like to be approached. So you'll find many online. And you'll also find many man-children online. So dating apps and marriage apps are their playground. Now, it's a playground for all types of narcissists, including the malignant ones. But man-children find it easy because they are lazy. Okay, they don't like to court people. They don't like to make a lot of effort. They don't like spending money. They're very stingy. Okay, the man-child is a very stingy guy. And if he is not stingy, then it's because he was used to some sort of generosity financially when he was growing up. But if he wasn't, if he lived tightly, if he came from a family that was tight with money or that was poor, he's going to be extremely stingy with his money. So he's not going to want to invest in dating loads of women to find the one. So he will jump online and it will be his pictures that draws the empath to him. So again, remember, these are empaths who have a lot of work to do on themselves. The codependency within them looks for someone whom they can be proud of. Okay, so the first thing that you see will be someone's looks. So they're drawn by a narcissist's charm, the way he dresses, he's well groomed. Empathic women like that. And so it's the first step in for the man-child into her life. Now, until now, he's never met an empath woman. Okay, he's never met a woman who isn't someone to be played with. So remember when I said that he will just look for women who he can sleep with or use for money or get some attention from or be pampered and spoiled by? You know, he will have loads of sources of supply for different reasons. And so he would have spent most of his youth being a playboy, right? The playboy is always a man-child. So the more they play around with women, the more they engage with the toxic ones, the codependents who are toxic, and the narcissistic women who are even more toxic. So they engage in a lot of zina, and there's a lot of negative energy exchange here. And the more he deals with toxic women, the more it confirms it in his mind that women are vile. Women are disgusting. Right? Why do you think all these red pill guys, all these red pill man children hate women? They're always slamming women. They're always attacking women. It's because of this. You think they haven't engaged behind the scenes with loads of toxic women? It's the reason why they're like this. Toxic women have made them like this. They've made them hate women. And this is why they're into such vile pornography. And that's why most of these red pill Muslim men and red pill men in general are into really disgusting sexual acts that degrade women, okay, because they believe that's what women deserve. Every woman they have come across in their life has been toxic. She's done something to hurt him, smash his ego. She's done something to completely humiliate him, even if it's just by the way she talks to him and swears at him and screams at him like he's the dirt under her shoe. Because when these women get angry, they get toxic. They get nasty and they start saying things that really hurt a man, that really hurt the ego of a man. And so it just reinforces this hate. It refreshes the bitterness and resentment they have towards women from that very first incident that they had with the woman who was the love of their life. And this goes back to their mother as well. They start resenting their mother even more. The more they see toxic women who are very similar to their mothers, remember I told you they gravitate towards women like their mothers, the more they resent the mother. And the more they start to feel like my mother is vile, all women are vile. And that's when you say, you know, a man has mummy issues. His mummy issues stem from never being loved, never being treated with respect, never being, you know, treated with care and all of that. So when they come across an empath woman, the first thing they say to themselves is she's a narcissist. She's a deceiver. They don't believe good women exist. The man-child does not believe good women exists. Okay? So when he comes across an empath, she's a new species for him. New species. He doesn't know anyone like her. He believes that you are a very high-level toxic woman who can fake empathy to such a grand level that even he's impressed by it, because that's what they do. Remember, people will always think of you in the way they perceive themselves. So if people think that you're lying all the time, it means they're liars. If people think you're always cheating, they're the ones who are cheating. So when they think that you're a narcissist, because they know that they are, they know that they have a disorder, they know something's wrong with them, and they have to fake empathy and fake being so many different things to be able to capture someone. So when they meet an empath for the first time, they're impressed by your ability to fake it so well. Okay, they're curious. They actually hang around to see how long you can hold up this mask for, because they've never seen someone who can hold it up for as long as you can. So what happens here is that you start falling in love with this guy because the game that he has is working on you. And his game consists of 4 things. There are 4 things that he will present to you if he sees that there's a benefit in having you around in his life. Okay, so if he sees you as a source of supply, he will use these 4 things to reel you in. The first one, his good looks. Okay, he knows he's attractive to you. He can tell off the bat that you are very interested in him and attracted to him. Now, just on that note, very quickly, a lot of empathic women, especially the ones who are higher up on the level of empathy, they will meet a man child and he won't be their type. Okay? He won't be their type. You'll be like, oh, he's not really my type. He's too skinny, he's too tall, he's too short, he's too overweight, I don't know. But he's nice. He's a nice guy, but he's not my type. But you allow yourself to meet him and, continue talking to him, and you give him a chance to grow on you. So the guy who was once not your type has now become your type because you've given him a chance to work his charm on you. So higher level empaths, they will know from the beginning that this guy is not my type. He might be handsome, just not your type. And he may look like a model, but not your type. Something inside you is telling you, not this guy, but he's nice. Because you're deprived of people who are nice to you and who are loving, you give this guy a chance because he's showing you that. Okay, so the first thing that he presents is good looks and a well-groomed self. Sometimes he's not even well-groomed. Sometimes he's just in his joggers and his hoodie and you're attracted to that. Fair play, whatever you're into, you will be attracted to him. Okay, so if you're not attracted to him from the get-go, take a step back and evaluate that. Because usually it's your gut instinct, it's your body telling you, no, not this guy. That's the first thing. The second thing will be his feminist views. Now, you might not be a feminist, but you might be a boss babe. You might be someone who is a high achiever. You might be a CEO of a company. You might be a business owner. You might have a high-paid job. He's going to give you all the support you need for that. He's going to cheer you on. And he's doing it genuinely because he's now seeing a woman who's got money. A woman who could potentially take care of him and be a provider because he's no masculine provider. So he's looking for someone like his mother who provided in her own marriage. So if you're a CEO, if you're a high earner, you are kryptonite to a man-child. He will support you. He will tell you, I will do whatever it takes to support you. If we have kids, I will take care of the kids. I'll be a stay-at-home dad. I'll be hands-on, blah, blah, blah. Okay? He allows you to have that dream if you are ambitious, and he allows you to have the freedom to do whatever you want. You want to travel. You want to do this. You want to do that. You want to, expand your business. He's not thinking about the time you're not going to spend with him. He's thinking about the money. And he believes that if he can support you with this, then he is going to be entitled to a share of what you have because you're going to owe it all to him, right? Because of my loving husband, I get to fulfill my dreams. Because of my loving husband, I got to expand my business and do X, Y, Z with my money. So he's in it for a cut. There's a big advantage that he is hoping for when he supports you in this way. So he comes across as being very feminist. So when you're dealing with red pill Akhi Abdullahs who don't want you to work, who are threatened by you, intimidated by your success, intimidated by your high salary and the Mercedes you drive and all of that, a man like this becomes a breath of fresh air. Even though it's not right for a man to be like this and not focus on his own ambitions. So if he's only focusing on yours, this is a problem. It's a good thing, it's a good trait, but it's a huge problem when he's not got his own that he's focusing on and working on, okay? Now, when you're comparing him to people who are too strict and too controlling, you will see this guy is kryptonite as well. Like, wow, for the first time in my life, I have come across a man who's not threatened by me. He's not intimidated by me. He loves a strong woman. He appreciates a strong woman. He puts you on a pedestal. And you're like, wow, I never thought men like this existed. So not only is he good looking, he's also very supportive. He's also very kind and charming and loving. He's all of these things. And you're like, wow, I've just hit the jackpot. Okay, so that's the second thing he will present to you. Support with your career and your dreams and your future ambitions. Now, the third thing that he'll do is mirror empathy. Okay, so whatever empathy you give him or show him, he's going to mirror it straight back to you. So it will be more of a me too case. So you'll always hear the me too, I'm like that too. Oh my God, I found my soulmate. We're exactly the same. We love the same things. We do the same things. We have the same upbringing. Me too. He will start to reflect back the empathy you give him. And he will match your level of communication. So he'll always be texting you. He'll text you back quickly. He'll text you in the morning, good morning, beautiful. He will text you at night, good night, beautiful. He will ask you about your day. He will check in on you. His communication is very good. Okay, he will shower you with compliments all the time and romantic songs. If he's got some money to spend that he doesn't mind spending, he'll give you loads of flowers as well, sometimes gifts, chocolates, things like that. And you will really start to feel that you've really found the love of your life. Okay, that's the third thing. Now the fourth thing is intimacy. So if he can reel you in with intimacy, then this is something he's going to try doing because he knows the power of soul ties. And if a woman falls in love with a man and he can reel her into a sexual relationship, he knows she's not going anywhere, right? She is not going anywhere. Especially if he starts to see that she's loyal and she really loves him, he knows she's not going anywhere. So he'll use that as the fourth card. Now, he'll only use this if he's not put a religious mask on. If he's got a religious mask on, he's not going to do that at all, or he will leave it for much later when he knows you're hooked. Okay, so you get loads of these Akhi Abdullahs who pretend to be so religious, but they're committing zina left, right and centre with women behind the scenes. So he might leave it for later because he knows that if he brings it up early on, you're going to run. And already he's established you're someone successful, you're someone who's got money, you're someone empathic. So far. He's still waiting for your mask to drop and reveal the narcissist behind it. And you've got a few things, right? You've got a few things that he quite likes. Stability as well. They go for people who are stable. And he's not figured out yet that you are someone completely different. So a lot of good women get reeled into a sexual relationship after a man has hooked them in to an emotional one. Because they rely on this a lot to keep you. And that's why loads of women say that the best intimacy they ever had was with the man-child. Because that's the only thing he can actually put effort in. Because he can't be bothered to do everything else. So he's thinking, well, if at least I look good, I'm well groomed, and I perform well in the bedroom, then those two things are going to keep her with me. Okay? So the man-child is always using sexual skills to keep a woman with him. And it works. It works because he is the type of guy who puts in the most effort more than any other type of guy. Because he doesn't have money, he doesn't have self-esteem, he doesn't have masculinity, he's not alpha, he's not a provider, he's not a protector, he's not a leader. So he's got to give something, right? He's got to give something, and it's usually excellent performance in the bedroom. And that's why a lot of women really struggle to leave the man-child, because the intimacy is so good. Now, this is often reported by women who have money. If a woman doesn't have money but she's empathic, she will actually complain about a lack of intimacy. Okay, a lack of intimacy. And the reason why is because she's more maternal than the financial giver. So if a woman is more maternal in her relationship with a man-child, so she ends up morphing into his mum and she ends up parenting him and treating him like a child because he acts like one, if you end up turning into his mother, the intimacy is not going to be good at all. And it will be rare. You will hardly have it. He will avoid it because in his psyche, you are his mother. Okay? So the empathic woman can either turn into his financial provider or his mother. Some women do both, so they can combine the mother role with being a provider, and you'll get a bit of both in this situation. Okay, sometimes the intimacy will be really good and sometimes it will be really bad or non-existent for long periods of time. It depends. But usually this is the standard setting. So if you've got lots of money and you're very glamorous, then the intimacy is going to be excellent. And if you are only maternal with him, it's not going to be good. Okay, and if you do have good intimacy, it's rare. It's like once in a blue moon that it's actually very good. And the reason for that is, like I said, because you've taken on the mother role subconsciously, because that's what he's valuing in you, that's what he saw in you when he first met you. He's seeing stability, he sees that you're maternal, he sees that you can be the mother he never had. And when you get reeled into this relationship, you end up parenting him very quickly. And when you end up parenting him, you step into masculine energy. And it's the masculine energy he doesn't have. So you've decided to take it on. And you can take it on very easily because you've been in survival mode for a long time. So women who have been in survival mode for ages and been single for ages naturally have masculine energy. Because you need it to get through life. Okay, so it makes you reliable, it makes you independent. You don't have issues, paying your rent, paying your bills. You just get on with life and you do things, and he loves that about you. He loves that because you remind him of his mum. Okay, his mum was once like that. So he's like, oh, I can have the life my dad had now, right? The lazy man child and the woman who does everything from A to Z. He's now found that. He's now found that woman whom he can get into a marriage with. Now remember, non-Muslim men rarely get into marriages. Okay, they rarely commit. But in order for a Muslim man-child to get an empathic woman, he has no choice but to marry her because she's going to want to do things the right way. She's going to want a nikah. So he's forced to get married. He doesn't want to get married. None of these men want to get married. Deep down, they hate marriage. They don't want anything to do with it because marriage equals responsibilities. And marriage means I have to step up and be a qawwam, and that's not me. That's not me. That's never been me. I don't know how to be a qawwam. I wouldn't even know where to start. So they avoid marriage. They don't want to get married. And it's usually their mothers who are on their backs to get married. Okay, you'll always find that it's their family members who are like, khalas, you're in your 30s, you need to get married. So they get married just to get their mothers off their backs or their families off their backs. They never actually get married because they really want to. Unless they're very young, like I said, in the age bracket of 18 to 22, they'll be all over marriage then because they've just met the first woman, who they believe is the love of their life. Before the heartbreak and everything, they're all over it. They can't wait to get married. That's why you find men in that age bracket who do everything they can to get married. They are so excited about getting married. After the age of 22, 23, after their first heartbreak, that desire for marriage really drops. Okay, really drops. And then after that, they make a decision that if they ever were to get married, it would be a marriage of convenience. Okay, so I will either find a woman who takes care of me from A to Z, or I find my mother, or I find both if I'm really lucky. If I'm really lucky, I'll find a woman who has all those qualities together. They don't think about what they can give you. They're always thinking about what they can get from you. Now, if he's got with a toxic codependent woman, then she is going to milk the fact that he is good looking. She will flaunt him all over her social media, and she will do it to get back at any exes she knows of. Okay, so she will do it because she feels insecure, and she will plaster him everywhere. This woman is a very toxic woman. Okay, she's codependent, but toxic codependent. I'll do another podcast, inshallah, about the toxic codependent personality. And this is also a disorder. Okay, so when you're empathic, you're not going to place him on a pedestal just for being good looking. You're going to really fall in love with him because of how nice he is to you, how kind he is, how supportive he is. And this makes you want to give him everything. Okay, so an empathic woman will now want to prove her love to him and show it by giving him everything, by taking care of him in every possible way, and he loves it. Until now, he's still thinking it's fake. He's still thinking you're doing a great job of faking this empathy. But what happens over time is that as you start to get to know him, his guard starts to drop and you now see the vulnerable side of him. So you see the wounded child or the wounded teenager, and your maternal instinct wants to jump in and help him. Okay? You do that by default. It's naturally in you. So if he's got money problems, you're going to help him start a business. You might even give him the money to start a business. If he's struggling with his mental health, you might pay for therapy. If he's struggling with his relationship with his family, you'll be trying your best to, try and make things work. And, one of the things that makes him so trustworthy in the empath's eyes is that he does get you introduced to his family very quickly, and sometimes his friends as well. So if he gets you to meet them quickly, especially if he has children from a previous relationship or a previous marriage, if he gets you to meet them quickly, it's because he wants to trap you quick. Okay? He wants you to be emotionally tied to his family and his kids as well. So be careful with that. That's what they do. They don't take their time and they're reckless with the feelings of people. So they don't take into account the feelings of their children that would be hurt if they were to break up with you. Right? If the relationship wasn't to work, because they've already got you emotionally involved with their family and their children. So if they do this early on, without really assessing who you are as a person, be very careful before you jump into meeting anyone's family or anyone's children. So it's another form of manipulation where they will use their family to keep you there because they all love you and they all want you there and they're all happy. And he tells them about you very quickly. It's just a way for him to reel you in, okay? Because he knows you're lonely and he knows that you're looking for a family to belong to. So they use this card. It's a cruel card and they're brutal with it. But this is a card that usually works. So yeah, going back to my previous point, you will end up doing everything for them. You'll cook meals for them. They will tell you about all the horrible relationships they've been in, how no one ever cooked them a nice meal, how no one ever made them feel at home. And you will go above and beyond to do that for him, to show that you love him. So you'll always be, like I said, cooking meals. You'll be taking him out. You'll be buying him gifts. You'll be doing loads of things. And before you know it, you've stepped into the role of his mother. Okay, you're now the one who's taking care of him, and in return he might do nice things for you here and there, right? He might do some handiwork for you, he might do some favors for you, he might fix your car, he might change your tires, he might, run some errands for you, drop you off here, take you there. He'll do those things, acts of service, because the majority of empaths who have been living in survival mode for very long, they really appreciate acts of service. So empaths see that as love. But for the man-child, this is very easy stuff to do, right? He's not going out of his way. He's just doing what he's good at. There's no effort being made. He's not going out of his way. He's just doing what he can. But the empath sees it as love because she's been deprived of this for a very long time. She's like, well, he's nice, he's supportive, he's this, he's that. Yeah, I'm going to marry him. I'm going to jump straight into a marriage with him. And before you know it, you're married to him. Okay? So it's a marriage that happens very quickly, and it's something that he needs to get out of the way if he's realised that he's got you in the bag. Now, this only happens when he's the one pursuing you, okay, when he's the one chasing after you because you're not 100% sure about him. When you're the one who's 100% sure about him, he will delay marriage sometimes because it's the only thing he has control over. She wants to marry me so badly, I want it to be in my hands and my control when we get married. And I want her to keep proving herself to me to be a good wife, and that's when I'll marry her. So he's lapping all this attention up. He's lapping up all the efforts. So some guys will actually delay nikah because they want you to work harder for their approval, harder for their attention and love until they agree to get married to you. And this can be a very exhausting process, okay, because he's got no reason to delay it. It's just the control he has that he's enjoying. So like I said, he's treating you like any of his exes right now. He's treating you like you're a toxic narc, a toxic codependent. He's still not understood that all of what you're doing for him comes from a genuine place of love and care. And it comes from your deen as well, because you want to do this and you want to help someone in need. You look at him and you think he's struggling with his iman, he's struggling with his self-esteem. I'm going to be the one to help him fix that. I'm going to build up his self-esteem, inflate his ego. You compliment him. You compliment him on things no one's ever even noticed before. Right, that's when he starts to notice that actually there's something different about this person, because you're noticing things in him that other people have never noticed. And you're appreciating things in him other people never did. So now he's starting to realize you're someone different. And he lets his guard down a bit more. But he's also terrified because he's never dealt with someone like you before. So at this point, this is where he starts to develop feelings for you. So it's not from the beginning. He didn't have feelings from you from the beginning. So it would have been infatuation, or it would have been a deep interest in who you are as a person. He would have found you, mysterious or fascinating, and he would have wanted to get to know you more to find out, are you a narcissist behind that mask or not? So this is when they start to develop feelings. So everything that you do for them before, even if it's bringing them in from another country, right? You're helping him with his visa, you're helping him with his papers, you're helping him get a job, you're providing for him until he comes to this country. If you're doing all of those things, he's still not in love with you. He just thinks that you're mad. He thinks you're crazy in love with him, and that he has you wrapped around his finger. Because you're going out of the way to show him that he's the prize, and you're going out of your way to do all of this hard work and lower your standards for him to have him, right? He's looking at you in that way. Like, I don't have to do anything for her. I'm already someone she's in love with. I'm already someone she wants to marry. So why do I have to do anything? It makes them lazy. Okay, it makes them really lazy. And they just look at you like, wow, she must be really lonely to be doing all of this for me. They don't appreciate it until much later, when you start to appreciate the things that no one's ever loved about them or appreciated in them before. So if you've taken on their kids, if you've taken on their baggage, if you've taken on the drama of their ex who's still involved in their life because of the kids, if you've taken on all of that, they don't appreciate it from the beginning. They just think you're desperate, because in their minds, they're thinking, who in their right mind would accept all this? Because if they were in your position, they wouldn't. And they already know you're out of their league. But when you start accepting all their baggage and all their drama and everything they come with, the tables turn and he starts seeing himself as the prize. Okay, so in the beginning, he would have met you and he would have thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to get a woman like that? Or why would a woman like this be interested in me? Because you're way out of his league. But when he sees you chase him and do everything for him and pamper him and mother him and provide for him, you lose that status. You lose that status, and now you become the woman who is desperate to get out of loneliness, and the woman who is desperate for children, desperate for marriage, and he starts treating you accordingly. Okay, he starts treating you accordingly. But if you are still the prize, if he knows there's a chance he could lose you if he was rude, and if he didn't appreciate what you're doing, and if he wasn't loyal and all of those things, he knows that he could lose out on loads of benefits. So he still puts you on the pedestal, you're still the prize, and this gives him a chance to get to know you better. And that's when, like I said, he starts to develop feelings for you, and you start to love him for reasons that other people haven't loved him for. Okay, it's this type of empathic woman who gives him a chance to fall in love with her. The woman who's constantly chasing, he gets really disrespectful with that woman eventually. But he's happy to stay and reap the benefits of everything she's doing for him. However, unfortunately, the back burner supplies will be in the background. Okay, they will be there, he'll be talking to them, and he simply won't understand why you're doing everything for him. So it actually turns him off when he sees that you're chasing him and that you've made him the prize, because he doesn't feel worthy. He doesn't feel he deserves it. Okay, he's like, this woman is being really nice to me. She's doing all of these things for me. I don't deserve it. I'm not a good person because I'm faking all of this, right? I'm faking it all. So when an empathic woman chases the man-child like this, he will eventually just pull the plug on the whole relationship, but he will reverse discard. So these man-children never discard. They will reverse it. so that you are the one who ends the relationship, so they can be free from the guilt, because they know you've done everything for them, you've done so much for them, and they don't know how to end it. And like I said, they've got back burners in the background telling them all sorts of things about you, and they are now showing you subtly that they're not in love with you. And then when an empathic woman starts to feel that this man is not in love with her, that's when she withdraws, and sometimes she ends the relationship or the marriage, and he's free to go. And he doesn't actually want to end it because, like I said, he's reaping loads of benefits, but he's now feeling under a lot of pressure to show love back. And because he can't show love back, he prefers to just pull the plug on it, okay? But like I said, he always has to appear as the victim so he can tell everyone, I thought she was a nice person, but she ended it. And sometimes they won't even launch a smear campaign against you from the guilt. And they will just say something like, you're the one who fell out of love with them. And it frees them from accountability and responsibility because they're the ones who deceived you from the beginning, right? So they go back to their back burners. Now, the back burners are always toxic codependents or narcissists. Okay, they always go back to those people after they leave a relationship with a empathic woman. Now, the woman they end up falling in love with is the one, like I said, who gives them a chance to get to know them on a different level. So your best moments, if you're in this situation or you have been in this situation and you look back on your experience, you will notice that the best times you had were the times when you didn't ask the man-child for anything, or you were happy accepting whatever it is that they wanted to give you. So for example, let's say they're a very stingy guy. Okay, he doesn't like spending money. He's not the type to take you out to nice restaurants or on nice dates or anything like that. If you agreed to a Netflix and chill or a walk in the park, you would have bonded with him then. Okay, because you're not asking him for anything. He's not spending any money. He's not doing anything that's making him feel inadequate. So if it's just watching a movie, you chilling, talking to each other, you guys making food at home, like I said, going for long walks if he's into that, or going for a bike ride, that's when you'll see his good side. That's when you'll bond with him, and that's when he'll fall in love with you. That's when he will enjoy his time with you. So you'll see his best side on the times when you haven't asked him for anything and you've made it very easy for him. Low investment, no effort. Okay, those are the times when he rewards you with a good mood, good treatment, happiness, cuddles, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you were to ask him to take you out somewhere nice, for example, a nice restaurant, he's going to be moody the whole time. He doesn't enjoy it. If you've asked him for something or asked him to do something for you and he ends up doing it, you realize he's going to be in a real mood, or he doesn't show any excitement or happiness when he's doing that. So you don't bond with him over those times. The best times you'll have with him are the times when he had no investment to make, or when he wanted to do something for you that was easy for him to do. So remember, these people are lazy. These people are low investment, low effort people. They don't like doing things that you ask them to do. They want to do things on their terms. So if they get you a gift, it's on their terms. If they get you a gift, it's what they want to give you and not what you've asked for. And when you say to them, well, this isn't what I wanted, or can you get me this instead? That's when they start to moan. And the problems start happening. Like, oh, you're never grateful for what I do for you. You never see what I do. Nothing I do is ever good enough. You always want more. And he may even compare you to his ex at this point. Oh, my ex used to do this. My ex used to say that. My ex used to make me feel like this. They start comparing you to the toxic ex, because remember what I said? They don't see you as someone who is genuine. They think everyone is out to scam them. They don't trust anybody. So you would have gone through a period of time with him where you're trying your best to improve his life, right? You're helping him with his iman, with his practicing of the deen, with his prayers. You're helping him with his business. You're helping him with his self-development. You're helping him educate himself. So many things. You're literally doing everything for him, and his life is getting better. His life is getting better. He's getting better as a person. His narc traits are starting to get less and less. His iman is getting higher. He's actually doing well with you. Okay, he's healing with you. He can talk about his childhood traumas with you. He can talk about everything that happened to him with you. And this is what makes the empath really special, because you're helping him get out of that trauma bubble that he's kept himself in for a very long time. So he starts to feel very comfortable around you. He's relaxed around you. He's happy when he's around you. Okay, because you're still in the phase of doing everything for him. When does this start to backfire? When you start asking him for your rights, your needs, and your wants. This is when his qareen kicks in. Who does she think she is? Asking you for what she needs and what she wants. You're here to be served. You're not here to be giving, you're here to be served. So the qareen starts to fill his mind with so many things about you. On top of that, I go back to him comparing you to the ex. This is when he starts to get moody. Okay, he starts to get super moody, because now he's uncovering that old trauma from the rubble again. Okay, all those feelings of being cheated on, all that humiliation, all that disrespect, it's all coming back. And now that's all he can think of. He's actually thinking of his past traumas when he's so moody. And he knows very well that he's not the man you need and the man you want. He knows you're out of his league. He knew that from the very beginning. Okay, but he was just intrigued to see how far he could get with you. But the moodiness that he has, whenever you guys go out, in all your pictures, he's always so moody. It's because he's always thinking about the expiration date of this relationship. And also, he's thinking about his ex and what happened with her, and how everything that's happening now in this current relationship is bringing back memories of that trauma. Because you keep asking him now for the things that his ex asked him for as well, before she cheated on him. Okay? So maybe you're asking him to make more effort in dates. Maybe you're asking him to make more effort at work, to be a provider. Maybe you're asking him to do certain things that he doesn't want to do, or he's not ready to do, because it requires him to be a man, and he still hasn't figured out how to be that alpha masculine man. So the mood swings start. The mood swings will start from here, because of your expectations of him that he hates. He hates the fact that you are now asking him for things and requiring him to take on some responsibilities in order to make this relationship work. Okay, so in his head, he basically ran away with the fantasy of having you in his life and not having to do any work, because for so long, you're the one who's been, putting in all the work, all the effort. If you brought him in from another country, you're the one who's been working all this time, paying the rent, paying the bills. He got comfortable with that. You think he didn't believe that was going to end? Oh, he thought that was going to last forever, that treatment. But when he got hit with reality, that actually now you have expectations of him taking over everything that you were doing for him, and that it's now his turn to invest in you, he freaks out and he panics. And he's like, Lord, get me out of here. Get me out of here. Now, during the time when you and him are having problems because of your expectations of him and his moodiness and all of that, he starts to go to his mother. Okay, because during this time, he's got to be on his best behaviour. He knows if you ever catch him with a back burner or someone else, you're going to end the relationship, and he couldn't risk it because he's healing with you. He's feeling better with you. He's feeling like a somebody with you for the first time in his life. He feels seen, he feels heard, he feels loved, he feels wanted, he feels everything, taken care of, the lot. So he's not going to risk talking to other women or anything like that while he's with you, because he doesn't want to lose you. So he'll be good and he'll be on his best behaviour. So the back burner during this time will be his mother. The mother he resents, the mother he doesn't like, the toxic mother who gave him childhood traumas, she is the one he goes to talk to about you in a negative way. So he goes to tell her how controlling you are, how you deceived him, how you're expecting him to do X, Y, Z when you knew that he was broke, when you knew that he was low income, how you're expecting him to get a better car or get a better job or do this and do that. He's now complaining to his back burner mother about this. And I say back burner because he's got no other supply at that time, right? He's had to cut off all his other back burners because of you, to keep you. Maybe they would have popped up every now and again in your relationship and you would have shut it down by asking him to block them, and he may have blocked them again to keep the relationship with you. Now, when you guys are having problems, it will be his mum he goes to speak to about you. When they get worse and worse and he sees that you're losing respect for him now because you see his laziness, his mask is starting to slip. You're starting to see him for who he is, and who he is the man who's not for you, right? He's not for you at all. You're starting to see how immature he is. You were blinded before by love and infatuation, but the more he refuses to meet your standards, the more he refuses to take on responsibility and fulfill your needs and your wants, the more you're going to start resenting him and disrespecting him. You will lose attraction for him. You won't even want to sleep with him anymore. And you'll start to realize that there's a strange relationship between him and his mother. Now, one of the things that may have kept you in this relationship for this long, this could have been after a year or 2 years. You might have had a child. He would have been very hands-on with the child. So many people stay with the man-child because he's very good with kids and hands-on. So unlike other types of men, he will do his best to help you take care of the children, especially if he's relying on you to bring the money in. So he will do whatever it is that you need him to do at home, and in his mind, that's more than enough. What more could you possibly want? But because of your hypergamous nature, you want someone to be a provider, a protector, and a leader. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us that way. So when he's not doing those things, but he's doing the more feminine things, you start to lose respect, you start to nag, you start to complain, and you start to realize that you married the wrong person. Now, when he knows this, okay, when he even feels it, that you regret ever being with him, that he has now become a burden to you, that he cannot be the man you need, that he is someone you no longer desire, when he starts feeling these things from you, you don't even have to say it directly, he'll feel it. That's when the back burners will come in. And there'll be one particular back burner who is watching the entire relationship from start to finish. She's the back burner who wants him, and she wants to destroy his life. And her qareen and his qareen work together to get him out of the relationship that's actually helping him to get better and to heal. So why does she want to destroy his life? She wants to take revenge on him because he chose you and not her. Okay, she's been watching in the wings for a very long time. She's been extremely jealous of you. She's been extremely jealous of the stable relationship he has with you, and she wants to ruin it for him. So as soon as he starts having these problems with you, unfortunately what happens is that he runs to the back burner, who's there waiting for him with open arms to listen to all his problems. Okay? And when she listens to all his problems, she's the one feeding him wrong advice. Instead of telling him and advising him to fight for the relationship, to make effort, she's a good woman, you should do everything in your power to, stay in this relationship. You've got a child, this and that. She tells him the opposite. She tells him how narcissistic you are. She tells him how controlling you are, how his life is going to get worse if he stays with you, and that you're a psychopath, and that you're better off without this woman who's going to ruin your future, and that, you deserve better, you deserve to be treated in a better way, you're such a nice guy, you're such this, you're such that. That's what the back burner feeds into his mind. And like I said, both their qareens are working together to get him out of the relationship, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows he's not the right man for you. Because Allah knows what's happening behind closed doors. Because you're not hearing his victim story. You're not hearing everything he has to say about you. And many of those things are lies. Many of those things are misunderstandings. You're not hearing him talk to the back burner. You don't even know she exists. You don't even know he's unblocked her at this point, because all this time he's told you that he's blocked her and he doesn't talk to her anymore. But behind your back, when things were going wrong between you two, he unblocked her and he continued talking to her, because he knows this relationship is going to come to an end and he needs a back burner in place to run to, because he's getting a bit sick of his mum now. His mum is now regaining more control over his life because he's complaining to her. And now he's giving her the power to regain that control over him and tell him exactly what to do. He doesn't like it. He doesn't want to go back to his childhood trauma and be controlled by his mother. So he has to open the door again to the back burner toxic woman. So that's when he gets a bit sketchy with his phone. Okay, towards the end of the relationship, you'll notice he won't let you touch his phone. He takes his phone with him everywhere. He never puts it on the table. He's always putting it in his pocket. He doesn't allow you to have access to it, when before he did. He would leave it lying around without any problems. But towards the end of the relationship, because he's restarted communication with the back burner supply, he can't risk you seeing it. Okay, so he's already preparing his victim story behind your back so that everyone feels sorry for him when you eventually end it, because he's going to start reverse discarding you now. And again, the reverse discard is when he insists on not doing what you want him to do. Okay, he just moans about everything. He moans about money all the time. He moans about being a man. He moans about how unfair life is. He moans about you having such high expectations when you knew what he was like before. You accepted him broke. You accepted him in that way. Well, yes, I accepted you broke, but look at all the work I've done for you to get you out of being broke, to help you start your business, to help you get a better job. What happened to all of that? He doesn't like it that you've done it. He doesn't like that you've done all those things for him. Because if he wanted to do those things, he would have done it for himself. So he's resenting you now for pushing him to be someone who he's not. And that's when he always turns around and says, you never accepted me for who I am. You're the problem. You're the one who never loved me. You're the one who never appreciated me or valued me, because you're trying your best to turn me into someone I'm not. So he was getting better, but the back burner supply got involved. The mother got involved. His qareen got involved. And now everything's fallen apart. Okay, because he's not strong enough to fight his own qareen, and he's not strong enough to have his own opinion. He's very easily swayed, the man-child. Okay, people can easily influence him. He doesn't have a strong character or his own values and principles. Whatever people say to him, he's swayed very easily by that. Okay, so, he's pulled in different directions by different people, and he always leaves the relationship very confused. So he doesn't actually want to leave it, because he knows with you he's getting better. He knows with you eventually he can be the man he wants to be. But the shayateen around him, shayateen al-ins and shayateen al-jinn, do not allow it to happen. Because the devils around him can't bear to watch him elevate his nafs with an empath who's helping him to regain faith and regain self-esteem and self-worth and everything. So the back burner supply will be the first woman to drag him down with her back into the swamp. She's like, no, you don't get to be better than us. You don't get to have a better life than us. You're coming back to where you belong. And she reels him back in. Okay, she reels him back in. Before you know it, you've ended the relationship with him because you just can't take it anymore. He's not a man. You've had enough. And he's with the back burner. Okay, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, however long it is, you find him with that same back burner whom you hated, whom he said was just a family friend, whom he said was just a sister to him. That back burner, whom you were always suspicious of, he's got with her. Listen to my podcast about the back burner supply that I've recorded before. It's all in detail there. And if it's not a back burner, it's a new supply who he met maybe online while he was still with you. So he would have still, had Muzmatch installed on his phone, and he would have met someone else. So basically they have to have a backup before they leave you. Every narcissist has to have a backup. And if they have no backup at all, if they can't find anyone, then they go to their mother. Okay, the toxic mother. And if they don't have a mother, then it's the toxic sister they go to. Okay, so there will always be someone whom they ensure they can go to as a backup. And believe me when I tell you, they know that this is just a cycle that's being repeated again and again and again. This is what they do every time. And that's why they have to ensure a victim story before you leave, because they know you're going to leave one day. They know you're going to get sick of them one day. So that's why the family of the man-child usually engages in a smear campaign against you, because they've already been fueled by all the things about you that are negative that he told them. And that's why they all side with him. Okay, they're all loyal to him because you haven't heard everything that he said to them about you. Okay, about how much you've been a nightmare to deal with and controlling. But deep down he knows you're what he needs. He just doesn't know how to meet your standards. He doesn't know how. He doesn't know how to be the man you need, and it kills him. Okay, it absolutely kills a man-child to leave an empath, especially if she is nurturing, especially if she's loving and caring and compassionate, and he knows she's trying to help him. Okay, but he can't continue that relationship. So he's never going to be the one to leave, and he'll always say that. He'll say that from the beginning. It's not going to be me who leaves this relationship or this marriage. If anyone leaves, it's going to be you, because he knows he's going to reverse discard you, and he knows it's you who's going to walk away. So he can confidently say from the beginning, it's not me who's going to leave this marriage, ever. I will always work on this marriage. If anyone leaves, it's going to be you. Because they know. They've been through this cycle before, many times. Even if they tell you they've never had a relationship in their life, probably lies. Okay, it's probably a load of lies. Because they don't become this manipulative from nothing. They would have had to have experience from somewhere to be able to know how to manipulate a woman in this particular way. Okay? So they know it's a repeated cycle. But this one is particularly painful for them. Okay, this is the first time they actually feel that something is wrong with them not making the effort. But they still remain stubborn because these people have an ego the size of China. Okay, the man-child has a huge ego. He's got huge pride issues because of the fact he's been humiliated before for not being man enough. So when you are telling him that I can't be with you because you're not, taking on these responsibilities or X, Y, Z, you're already telling him how to fix the relationship, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to, so he walks away. And 9 times out of 10, the man-child never comes back. He never comes back to hoover you because he knows that if he was to come back, he'll just come back to the same conditions. And they are the same conditions that he doesn't want to meet. And sometimes, especially if you have a child with him, he will use that card. So he might manipulate you with guilt. He might appeal to your empathy by reminding you of, having a home with this child. He might remind you of good times. So sometimes they do hoover you with things like that, but only when they're confident that it will work on you. If you firmly ended the relationship and you are an independent woman with your own income and your own house and your own car and everything in place, 9 times out of 10, I'm telling you, he's not going to come back and hoover because you don't need him. He knows you don't need him. They only come back when they know you need them. So they have to be very confident that they would never get a rejection if they were to come back and hoover. But if they feel that they would get a rejection and be humiliated by that rejection, if they came to hoover, you'll never hear from them again. Okay, you might be spied on by the back burner. You might be spied on by him from a fake account. You might be spied on by the family to see how you're doing and how you're getting on. And if they see that you're doing fine, oh, they hate it. They never come back. Especially when they see you doing well, they never come back to hoover. Now, I know a lot of people wish that the man-child would hoover them back because they love that man-child. They really love this man. And this is a huge heartbreak for an empath who has to end a relationship because it's just not going anywhere, right? You can see he's not investing in the relationship. You can see he doesn't love you enough or care enough or is manly enough to be able to make this, relationship work. So many things are going wrong and you're forced to leave a relationship you love so much. You're forced to walk away from a man you love so much. You're forced to walk away from a family you wanted so much. I get it, okay? And this is what makes this particular situation very painful because of how much you've invested in this guy and how much progress you saw him making. So when you saw that he was actually making loads of efforts and, to improve himself, you are confirming within yourself that you have value. Okay, this was the value you're adding to his life. Because as an empath, you find your value in improving people's lives, fixing people, saving people, healing people. If you can manage to do that, then you feel really good about yourself. So you will feel a huge sense of disappointment when this guy walks away and he doesn't value all that work you put into him. And when he walks away from all his progress, and to who? To a toxic, disgusting, narcissistic woman who's a back burner, extremely jealous of you and the relationship you guys had. She does that out of jealousy. But at the same time, I promise you, if you were to stay with a man like this, he would have ruined your life. Because men like this expect you to always pick up the pieces. Okay, ask any woman who has been in a marriage with a man like this for 20, 30 years. It never ends well because you will be constantly fighting all the satanic people around him who are attacking your relationship. Okay, like I said, he doesn't have a strong character. You can't be the one to teach him how to be a man. And you can't be his therapist. And you can't be the one to undo all his childhood traumas. And you can't be the one to do all the healing for him. The self-development work has to come from him. Okay? Him working on his iman and his prayers and his connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to come from within himself. If he's that weak and prefers to go and be with a back burner supply who he knows is toxic, if he wanted to be with her, he would have been with her before you. Okay, he wouldn't have chosen you. He would have stayed with her. But he knows that she's toxic. He can't trust her. But his qareen made him do that because his qareen doesn't want him to heal. His qareen doesn't want him to get better. So his qareen will work with the qareens of other backburners to drag him back into the swamp. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves you because Allah allows him to make that decision, right? That's his decision to make. Khalas. You want to make that decision, that's your problem. But Allah saves you from that situation. So Allah would have allowed you to learn a lesson from this guy, which is never marry a man whom you have to babysit. Okay, no babysitting these man children. You can't be doing that to yourself. You need to raise your standards and marry a man who inspires you. You have to marry a man who is a qawwam. Because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you to do. In order for you to be happy, in order for you to have a stable marriage, in order for you to feel safe and protected and, your well-being is being taken care of, your iman is being taken care of, you've got to marry a qawwam. And a qawwam is a provider, a protector and a leader. He is not a man you need to babysit. Yes, every man likes to be pampered and spoiled and taken care of, fine. But when you have to teach a man or nag a man about how to be a man, he's not your guy. He's not your husband. This is not a man you should be marrying. This guy is going to give you more traumas. He's so immature. He's reckless. He's going to engage with back burner supplies and listen to bad advice and listen to bad friends because he's not mature enough to have a mature relationship, to have a relationship with someone who is going to lift him up. You're going to really struggle lifting someone like this up. It's like lifting someone out of a well who constantly slips down. Right? Imagine you constantly, lifting someone out and they're so heavy and you're so relieved that you finally got them out of the well and then they do something stupid and slip back in. And you're constantly pulling them out. Until when? It's exhausting. It's really exhausting. So it doesn't matter how nice he is, how kind he is. It doesn't matter how handsome he is, how funny he is. At the end of the day, if he's not a qawwam, if you cannot hold him to that standard, you are committing injustice towards yourself. Especially when you know you're a woman of your word, you're a loyal woman, you're a good woman, you're a woman of iman. You know you're all of these things. Why do you lower your standards so low to be with someone like this who can't even take care of you and doesn't want to take care of you? And even if he wants to, he doesn't know how to. This guy needs to go to boot camp first to learn how to be a man. It's the only way. It's the only way. And people say, he said he's going to change and he's going to do therapy and this and that. Great. If he does therapy, if he gets the help he needs, fantastic. But what are you going to do about him not being a man? Because therapy will help him with his childhood trauma, but it won't teach him how to be a man. He needs to be around masculine men who mentor him. And if you look at his circle of friends, they're all feminine, they're all closet gay, they're all, they're not alpha. And sometimes you'll find that his friendship circle is primarily women. And that's why they become so feminine and so irresponsible. Okay, all they want is fun. All they want is, casual relationships. And that's why in the non-Muslim world, the man-child thrives in hookups and casual relationships because there's no commitment. They hate commitment for this reason. Because they know it always ends badly and it always ends in humiliation because they can't be a man. They can't be responsible. So hookups, casual flings, they are perfect for the man-child because he's free from responsibilities. And I want to make a note as well that the man-child doesn't ever really want children. Okay, they have no interest in having their own children as a result of their own childhood traumas. So when you get pregnant, it dawns on them that they have to bear the responsibility of being a father for the rest of their life, and it freaks them out. Like, they're never really happy when you get pregnant. They may enjoy, having children when they see them grow up as toddlers and all of that, but as soon as children reach the age of 11, 12, when they start to stand up for themselves and all of that, you see the man-child get really moody with the kids because now the children have needs, right? They've got expectations of their father. We want you to do this. We want you to buy us this. We want you to take us here and there. They don't like it. Like I said, the man-child hates it when you ask him to do anything. They really hate it when you hold them to an expectation. And this goes for the children as well. So they're happy to do loads of things for children who are dependent on them. They're usually very fun dads because they are doing what they want to do for the children, like take them swimming, take them bowling, take them to, for ice cream. They enjoy doing all those things. But as soon as children enter the teenage phase and they have needs and they need the father to be working to provide them with all the things that they need for school and school trips and all of that, that's when they start having a problem with their own children because they don't want to invest like this in people, even in their own children. So they're happy to do it when their children are small, but not when their children enter teenage phase. And this is why I always say that the man-child has Peter Pan syndrome. So he never wants to grow up. He never wants to be responsible for anyone. They don't like being accountable for anyone or anything. Okay, so while everyone, gets on with their life and develops and progresses, they're still stuck as the children who were traumatized once upon a time. Okay, they don't progress with their life. They just enter the same cycle again and again and again. Now, after you walk away from the man-child and he gets into a relationship with the back burner, this relationship doesn't last for very long because he is constantly talking about you to the back burner. Constantly. And she gets sick of it, and eventually she leaves because she realizes that she can never measure up to who you were. So she ends up discarding him, or sometimes he will discard her. They will have a massive fight, and he will go off to look for a new supply, and she will go off to one of her back burner supplies, or a new supply as well, and she will hate him after that. So more often than not, after this breakup between them, she doesn't usually go back to the narcissist unless there's been a door left open somewhere. Okay? Now, what will happen here is the narcissist will move on to a new supply after the back burner supply. So if it doesn't work out with her for any reason whatsoever, usually it's because he can't stop talking about you. And sometimes he can't stop blaming her for the breakup of your relationship because she is the one who was constantly in his ear about you, and he realizes that. But he realizes it when it's too late, how toxic she is and how she is the one who deceived him and scammed him out of his good relationship with you. But because the bridge has been burnt so badly, he can't go back, right? He can't go back to you. He has no face to hoover you. So he finds it easier to just save his pride and ego and just go to a new person, a new woman who knows nothing about him, and start the cycle all over again. However, I will tell you this, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the empath into the life of a man-child so he can be healed, so he can open his eyes, so he can improve as a man, and he can move on with his life, okay? The empath is always the lifeline of this man-child. And Allah only sends the empath once to a narcissist. So a man-child, a narc man-child, will never get two empaths sent to him in his lifetime. It's only the one time, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never send a blessing twice when you didn't appreciate it the first time. Okay, so the next lesson he will get will be a harder one. Okay, there will be no more empath lifeline, and it's the best lifeline he could have because it's the most loving one, right? It's the kindest, most loving lifeline. It's not a humbling experience, it's a lifeline. And Allah knows that all the women in his life have never treated him well. So when he sends him a woman who treats him so well, it's a test for him. It's a test for him to see if he's going to treat this blessing with honor or not. And he doesn't. Okay, he doesn't. He kicks this blessing, and it's in the favor of the empath. Okay, it's in the favor of the empath because now you can marry the man whom you deserve and who deserves you. You can finally find your qawwam. This was a lesson for you as well, to knock the naivety out of you, to knock the codependency out of you, to make sure you never choose someone out of loneliness ever again, because you will always attract the man-child. And it's a lesson for you to never doubt your self-worth and never compromise on your standards and never dismiss what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told you to do when he said, الرجال قوامون على النساء. Okay? What is a qawwam? Protector, provider, leader. These are the men whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given authority over women because they have the qualities of being real men who can look after women. So if you take on any other man who doesn't have those qualities, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer, and your children are going to suffer, and you're going to get a new cycle of childhood traumas through your children because they are now looking at the same dynamic that man-child looked at when he was a child. He's looking at a mother who is a boss babe. She's taking care of everything. She's burnt out from working. She's burnt out from being so stressed at having to always provide and take care of everyone and make the decisions. And the father is the lazy man-child, right, who's getting everything done for him. You're taking him back to his childhood. And you're taking your children back to his childhood. Can you see how you're repeating a cycle from what your children are going to see in the future? This only gets worse. If you think it's going to get better, you're wrong. You're really wrong. Like I said, unless he goes to boot camp where he's mentored to be a man, and unless he goes to therapy for his self-development and his iman issues, don't hold your breath. Seriously, don't hold your breath on that one. He's never going to change. He's going to change later on in his life by a humbling experience that comes from Allah. It's not going to be from you. It's not your job to fix him. It's not your job. You haven't been sent to fix him. You were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him that good people exist. That with the right partners, people can heal. With the right partners, people can relax. With the right partners, people can feel happiness. And they can let go of their past. And they can let go of their childhood traumas. They can let go of all of that because good people exist. And I can finally relax. I can finally trust somebody. I can finally live a good, clean life. You're not there to fix him. You're just there. Your presence alone is healing. And your character and everything that you do for him, out of your genuine nature, is healing. The way you take care of him, it's healing. You're not trying to change him or fix him. You are giving him and nurturing him with who you are as an empathic person. And this is what heals him. You know, you're someone who prays, you're someone who has a connection with Allah. That affects him. Your good energy affects him because he's constantly around people with satanic energy. Do you know how different he's going to feel around you with good energy? Do you know how healing that is to be around people with healing energy? It has a profound effect on them. And if you've noticed, they sleep a lot when they're with you. They get sleepy as well. You're watching a movie and they're like a grandpa, and within like 20 minutes, they're already snoring. And you've barely even just sat down. You know, it shows that he's comfortable in your energy field. It shows that it's healing for him. Okay, he can finally get some sleep. Loads of people, when they heal, they sleep a lot because their nervous system is catching up on the sleep they lost out on when they were going through a lot of anxiety, nightmares, and all those things that used to keep them up at night. So when you heal, you'll sleep a lot and it's fine. So you'll find the man-child will be like that around you when his nervous system starts to heal. And he feels that, he knows that. So after the breakup, when he goes off with the back burner and he realizes he's been scammed, and it's like he's been blinded by something, right? He can't put his finger on it. He doesn't know how on earth it happened that he lost someone like you, where he could finally let his guard down and be himself. He starts to regret it. Okay, every man-child will regret it. His biggest regret will always be losing the empath woman who he can never go back to. And it's something that haunts them until the day they die, unfortunately. You know, and I don't say that for you to feel sorry for them and take them back. No, it's because they have a lesson to learn when it comes to their arrogance. Okay, you letting them back in is only good for them but not good for you. You don't gain anything because they haven't changed. And I'm all up for, you know, giving someone a second chance if they've gone and done all the work and come back without any back burner supplies being involved and no new supplies being involved. If he's genuinely taken the time out to go and work on himself and come back, by all means, give him a second chance. But when they leave you and they go and get involved with satanic women and they don't work on themselves and then they miss you and they want to come back, hell no. Hell no. You do not take that person back. You never take that person back. Okay, that person has to prove to you that they've done a lot of work on themselves and not just gone, you know, dabbling in different relationships because they don't like to be alone. Absolutely not. Now, just a quick note, because I've noticed that the recording has now reached 2 hours and 14 minutes, so I don't want it to drag on for too long, but I wanted to answer a quick question that I received from someone who asked me about the malignant man-child. So she said that her man-child became nasty and physically violent and, verbally aggressive and all of that. And it goes against the general idea that the man-child is quite a nice person who's not that abusive, but, he just gaslights and manipulates. Now, the general rule is that the man-child is nice. He's a nice person, and the manipulation he uses is often gaslighting, right? So he's a king at gaslighting. He'll gaslight you to the moon and back, this guy. And that's usually as far as he'll take it. Okay, so there won't be any aggressive verbal abuse. There won't be any physical abuse unless he is trying to reverse discard you and you're not leaving. Okay, if you're not leaving and you're insisting and pushing him to be the man you need him to be and he doesn't want to be that person, and you're not leaving and you're not getting the hints and you are not respecting yourself, okay, with everything that he's doing to upset you, this is when he turns nasty. Okay, he turns nasty when he loses all respect for you, because this guy will never leave the relationship. He pushes you so hard with all his disrespect to make you leave. And if you don't leave, that's when he turns malignant. Okay, that's when he turns malignant. And he will turn malignant with the other type of empath I told you before about, who chases him all the time. Right, the empath who is constantly chasing him, the toxic codependent who is constantly chasing him, you can get on his really bad side, and he doesn't want you to push him to expose that bad side, because now he's getting really frustrated that you're taking so long about this. Sometimes the man-child can even be pushed into a marriage he doesn't want, because the toxic codependent or the empathic woman has not left the relationship. And he doesn't want to look like the bad guy. He's got this obsession with not looking like the bad guy. He would rather you look like the bad person than him. And sometimes they enter relationships they don't even want to be in, because they want to remain a victim. They love playing the victim. Being a victim has really worked for them in their life. But when they meet someone who doesn't allow them to leave a relationship with their reverse discard, they get angry because you push them to be malignant. And you push them to show a very nasty side that they never wanted to show, because they always wanted to appear as the nice guy. Okay, so they always blame you for bringing out their worst side. They always blame you for it. So as soon as you feel like someone is trying to push you out of a relationship or give you excuses to leave, leave immediately. Leave immediately. Don't hang around. Don't be like those women who say things like, oh, but, I know he doesn't really want me to leave. I know this is a part of his disorder. No, stop making excuses. Even if he says to you later, please don't give up on me. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to change. But he's giving you so many excuses to leave the relationship. Leave the relationship. Stop falling for his rubbish. He's just saying it to enforce his position as the victim. Okay? And the crazy thing as well is that when you end it, when you finally do end it, you get him crying and saying things like, I can't believe you ended it. I can't believe you left me. I can't believe after everything we've been through, you don't want to be with me and that I'm not man enough. And I was right about you. You scammed me. I was right about you. You wanted someone else. And I should have known. All women are the same. You left me like my ex left me. All women leave me. Blah, blah, blah. After he pushed you out of the relationship, he will turn around and say these things to you. And it's just gaslighting. I'm telling you, these people are pro-manipulators. He knows exactly what he's doing. But he's in a bubble right now. He's in a toxic bubble that his qareen has put him in. And he will only realise what he's done and what he's lost when he gets with the back burner. So Allah blinds him until he gets with the back burner to ensure that there's no way for him to come back to protect you. Okay, you're the one who's protected here, because he knows that if you know he ran to that toxic back burner whom you didn't like, you will never take him back. So Allah allows him to be blinded until he gets to that back burner, and then khalas. He's severed the ties to you because Allah doesn't want him to have a way back to you. Khalas, he's kicked that blessing. That's his punishment. He is now stuck with his own kind again because he didn't appreciate the blessing, the ni'mah Allah gave him when he sent him an empath to help him. Okay, so leave him to his mother, leave him to his toxic sisters. If he hasn't paid your mahar, if he has refused to pay the mahar he promised you, just leave it, let him go. There's going to be a day for all of these people, okay? Because there are lots of women who say to me, oh, he reverse discarded me so that he didn't have to pay my mahar. He wanted me to ask for a khula so he didn't have to pay my mahar. You know what? These people think that they can get away with all of this. They're not going to get away with all of it. Let it go. Let them have whatever they want to have. They want to keep your gold. They want to keep the gifts. They want to keep the mahar. Let them keep it. Wallah, it will come back to you in this life and the next. Okay, Allah will compensate you. Don't worry about it. Just let him go and slam that door shut behind him and never let him back in, especially when you know a back burner's involved or a new supply is involved. Never let them back in again. You are only asking for trouble. You are asking for a miserable life if you take them back after they've run off with one of those toxic women. I promise you. You take them back, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. I know a lot of women have. Okay, so I hope this advice has saved someone today. I hope it's given closure to people. I hope this has explained your situation to you. If you've got any questions, please do drop them in the comment section below. I think I'm losing my voice now, so I'll end it here. But I'm happy to help anyone who needs one-to-one counselling and coaching. Just drop me an email to the address below, or you can click on the link for the website and it will give you all the information about the sessions and programs that I offer. And if you haven't read the book yet, do grab a copy. It's called The Muslim Narcissist. And please do like the podcast if it's helped you. Please share it with people whom could benefit from this, and do subscribe if you would like more information about related subjects. So the next podcast, inshallah, will be about the woman child. So hopefully that one will help men as well, who are also in a very similar situation. So thank you for listening until now, if you're still with me. And until the next podcast, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.